Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm really excited to have joining me on the show the great Nita Strauss. We're going to talk all about her forthcoming new solo CD, The Call of the Void. We'll also talk about what it's like working with Alice Cooper, Demi Lovato, and so much more. This was a great conversation I know you guys are going to really love, so let's jump in and let's get started. Well, Nita, I just want to welcome you to the show. I'm really excited to have you on today, and I want to congratulate you. You got your second solo album, The Call of the Void, coming out in a couple of weeks. You must be excited. I know you've been working on this a long time, so just talk about, does it feel relief to finally get this album out?
Beyond excited. Yeah, it's been too long coming, too long of a wait. So just very happy to finally have it all out in the open. No more sort of keeping the guests hush hush or anything like that. We can finally talk about everything and get it out there, and can't wait for everybody to hear the rest of this record.
Yeah, we'll talk about the guests in a moment, but your first solo album really was instrumentals, and this one you have a mix of instrumentals and some incredible guest vocalists. What made you decide to go that route this time, to have some guest vocalists on it?
It was really just a natural progression. I think, as an artist, I think you always have to keep growing and pushing yourself. And I didn't want to stay in the same place and just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I try to do that in every aspect of my career. So this just seemed like the natural next best step.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And it's one of the things I love about your career is you kind of seem to dabble in so many different styles of music and so many different things, and you kind of keep the fans guessing. And that's one of the things I love about you as a performer.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So, one of the things I was thinking of when you're writing music for an album like this and you're writing songs, are you categorizing them and saying these are going to be instrumentals, these are going to have a vocalist on it, or you just write the music and you let the chips fall where they do?
For me personally, the process for writing an instrumental song is so different to the process of writing a song that's going to be for a singer. And it's really because for an instrumental song, there are no rules. The song can be 2 minutes, the song can be 15 minutes. It can be as fast or as slow, or as many key changes or as many tempo changes. It's the Wild West.
That's right.
And if you're writing for a vocalist, suddenly all of these restrictions fall into place. It can't be too short. It can't be too long. It has to be a key that's comfortable enough for the singer you have in mind to sing in. Can't be so fast that they can't sing the vocals, or so slow that it's uncomfortable for the delivery. If it's going to go to radio, it has to follow sort of a specific format of length and arrangement, and all these constraints pop up. So for me, there wasn't really any track that was like, oh, this one could go either way, because the instrumental ones I just sort of pour out, and the vocal ones are more carefully constructed.
Now, to me, you've worked with some of the best vocalists on this album, especially when we talk about more current vocalists, although you do have Alice Cooper on the album as well. So just talk about some of the guests that you do have and what they brought to the table for you.
Oh, wow. I was asked earlier in another interview who my favorite one was, and I was like, well, and I just started naming everybody because they're all my favorite. It was just such a good experience. I mean, it was such a good experience working with every single feature on the record, from Alisa from Arch Enemy, who is always, if you look back through old interviews with me and people ask me what vocalist I would want to collaborate with, she's always been my first answer. Chris Motionless crushed it. Digital Bullets, one of my favorite songs on the record. And I think definitely one of the songs that showcases the record and who I am as an artist and what we're about. David Draymond and Alice Cooper, two legendary musicians, carrying the torch of rock for so long. Can't even believe I got, either of them, much less both of them on this record. Lzzy, Hale, and Dorothy and Lilith Starr, three powerhouse women, generational talents. Anders from In Flames, my first favorite band ever of my life. Am I missing anybody? I think, and I have Marty Friedman on a track.
Right.
The first heavy metal song I ever heard was Marty Friedman playing on a Megadeth song, life-changing experience for me. So I pinch myself thinking about this list of vocalists and collaborators that I had for this record. And I just couldn't be more proud of it. Honestly, I really couldn't.
What I love is looking at some of the feedback. And I don't know if you look at the feedback when you post, and because you released a couple of singles so far from the album, and the feedback has been overwhelming. And I love so many times when you put out an album with a song, rather like Dead Inside with David, The Wolf with You with Elisa, right? And people are just like, oh, you need to have a whole album with that person. Oh, now I wish you had a whole album with this person. So the feedback has been really overwhelming. Do you ever think of, hey, maybe I will do an album with one singer?
I'm not there yet. Honestly, I'm a bit spoiled for choice right now because, and it's also a reason why I have no intention of singing on my record anytime soon, because when you have a guest list like this of feature vocalists, like, why would I sing a song when I can get Lzzy motherfucking Hale to sing a song?
Right. One of the greatest female vocalists of all time. Right?
All time, bar none.
Yes.
I have this opportunity. Like, I couldn't sing that song even a fraction of how she sang it. So it doesn't serve my songs. It doesn't serve my career particularly. Like, why wouldn't I collaborate with these incredible artists and have them lend their voice and get to do what I love to do, which is play guitar?
Right. So, and I might have misspoke before when I was calling the song out, but The Wolf You Feed, right? Yeah, The Wolf You Feed. And I'll be honest, I wasn't overly familiar with Elisa as a singer, as maybe I should be. And when she first started singing, I'm like, oh, that's an aggressive style. Then all of a sudden it changes into the smooth. And I'm like, holy crap, that's freaking amazing. So talk about doing that song and especially the video with her.
I was in the middle of Demi Lovato rehearsals. She was in the middle of, Arch Enemy had an incredibly busy year last year. So we just found a Sunday that worked for the both of us. She flew into LA. I had literally, we were rehearsing 6 days a week for the Demi tour. So I had one day off. She flew in. We shot the video from 1 p.m. till 1 a.m. And then she flew back out the next day, and I, toddled back off to rehearsal. So definitely threw that one together. First time working with Vicente Cordero, who is an amazing director. We've got some more stuff in the pipeline with him. So yeah, it was a labor of love. Everybody involved worked hard to make it happen. We actually just dropped another music video today for the Golden Trail featuring Anders from In Flames. And it was the same thing. Like, I was on the road. He was busy working with In Flames. We thought, what day can we make this all work? It's my turn to fly in for one day, shoot the music video from 12 to 4, straight back to the airport, back to the tour, So I'm really lucky and very, very fortunate and grateful that these vocalists not only took their time to record the music, but actually took their extra time out of their own schedule to create a visual for it and make it even better.
Now, do you enjoy making videos? I know some artists see it as like a necessary evil. Others really enjoy it. Where do you stand on that?
A bit of both. I think I've got a foot on each side. I do absolutely find it to be necessary. We're just in such a visual time of the world right now that, for example, I had a song come out earlier this year with my longtime boss, Alice Cooper, and that song did not have a music video. And you can really tell the difference in how far the song reaches when you see a song like the one we put out with Anders, and how much more reach that got, and how much more, engagement it got on social media. Just because you have a visual, you have something to look at to go along with the song. And that's just sort of the way that the industry is right now. People like a visual aspect to go along with the musical aspect.
And you're talking about, the number of engagements on a song, so one of the things to me is, I don't care what musician you are, unless you're Taylor Swift, in 2023, you're not selling 1 million albums. That's just the way it is. So how do you
Sure.
putting out an album? How do you view it as a success or not for you?
I mean, I just feel like getting it out at all under these circumstances is a success. For me, I'm always much more focused about the live experience than the recorded experience. So for me, I think I will find it to be a success. I'm going out on tour in a couple weeks to support this record.
Yep.
And, when I see people at the shows, headbanging, having a good time, coming to VIP, coming to say hi at the merch table afterward, like, that's really how I gauge if things are going well or not. It's one thing to sit on social media and read the comments. People say it's great. People say it's terrible. People say you should go die in a fire. Like you really can't go by that. So I really just try to keep my the way that I gauge things by what I see in the real world.
And you do have the tour starting, the Summer Storm tour starting in beginning of June, mid-June time period, right?
Yes, exactly.
And you found a new singer for that tour, right? So just talk about her, how you found her and all that.
Yeah, so we have talked about the guests on the record, everyone from Alice Cooper to Elisa to David Draymond to Lzzy and Dorothy. And I was just pulling my hair out thinking of finding a singer. Like, how am I going to find someone who can sing Chris Motionless and Lzzy Hale,
right.
who can growl and sing like Elisa, who can do the staccato voice like David Draymond. And then I discovered this incredible new talent named Casey Carlson. Casey has gotten a very large following on TikTok and Instagram, and she does metal covers. So, she sings girl songs, she sings boy songs, she screams, she sings beautiful high cleans, and she is truly the chameleon that I need for this tour. She's like the transformer of metal vocalists. So very, very excited that we were able to get her. She has an awesome band of her own called Deadlands. I know they've got some shows coming up, so I'm really grateful that she took a little time away from that to come and tour with me.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned before working with Alice on your album on the song Winner Takes All, right? And you mentioned him as your boss, right? Which to me is always odd to me. It's always band members. But how was it for you working with Alice and the roles, I guess, being flipped and reversed, right? Where now it's your album and really you're the boss, right? So how was that experience for you?
Well, we really weren't reinventing the wheel with Winner Takes All. I wasn't in there to try to show Alice Cooper as anything different than what he is. The vocal part was a Tommy Henriksen creation. Tommy is my bandmate in Alice's touring band and also longtime musical collaborator of, on Alice Cooper records, on Hollywood Vampires records. So he really has a much better sense than anybody except maybe Bob Ezrin and Alice himself of what Alice likes. So we created in the studio this very sort of modern, dark, heavy rock track for him to sing on, and then gave him an Alice Cooper style vocal on top of it. So, we weren't having him rap or do any super high notes or anything like that. We're like, hey, you just be Alice Cooper, and we'll do the rest. So there wasn't really much producing to do or, coaching him how to do anything. He knows how to do it better than anyone could ever tell him.
Now, when we're talking about all the incredible guests and the vocalists you have on the record, but I don't want to slight the instrumentals also, because quite honestly, I've heard the album and the instrumentals was some of my favorite on the record. And that says a lot, because to me, some of the vocalists and some of those songs are great. And especially for me, Scorched, and forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, Kintsugi, help me with that.
Kintsugi. I'll have to ask a Japanese friend to correct my pronunciation too, but I believe it's Kintsugi.
Well, the fact that you don't know with 100% certainty makes me feel better. But anyway, those two songs, there's so much emotion in the playing, and it really just those songs, I really gravitated to them when I was listening to them. So talk about those.
I love that you chose the ballads. That makes my little heart so happy that someone's listening to them and not skipping them in favor of the monster tracks. Scorched was a creation when I was living in Hollywood. My boyfriend and I were living right in the heart of Hollywood during the pandemic. And when all the riots broke out, it was right in our neighborhood. So I was literally opening our gates in the morning if I was going to take the dogs out or anything, and there was scorch marks all over the place. A car on fire directly outside of our house, helicopters and police sirens all hours of the day and night for weeks and weeks. So you actually hear a recording from our backyard at the beginning of that track. Like that's what it sounded like outside. I took my phone outside with a voice note app and held it out, and that's what it sounded like in our backyard. So you hear the authentic atmosphere of the song. And there was so much sadness, so much anger, so much of our little community that, I had been living there at that point for 8 years. I think Josh had been in our place 10. And so much of our little community was just rocked and destroyed during that period of time. And the song was just a reflection of what was going on and how devastating it was on all fronts. Nobody won at, that whole situation going on.
Of course.
Kintsugi, I think, is the most emotional piece of music I've ever written as a guitar player. And the art of kintsugi, the Japanese art of kintsugi is called golden joinery. It's when a pot or a cup is broken and it's repaired using gold. And the sentiment behind that is that when something is broken, it's not useless, or ready to be discarded. It can be put back together and be more valuable than it was before. And I love that so much. I almost called the whole album that.
Oh, wow.
Because I was kicking around a few different album titles, and that was one of them. They call it The Art of Precious Scars. And I thought that was a great album title because I think that all of us gain these scars on our journey. We all become broken and put back together in one way or another. And it's because of those experiences that we become our most authentic self, who we truly are. And if we didn't have these experiences in our lives, these traumatic experiences that shape our personality, we wouldn't become the person that we are today. So I think that's a beautiful sentiment. And all the note choices that I made in that song and the phrasing really was just to try to create that sentiment and serve that emotion. I didn't use a lot of effects on the guitar. It's a very straightforward sound, no drums, just me and my best friend, who's my keyboard player, having a musical conversation about that concept.
And to me, it really comes through, and it spoke to me. Like I started off saying, to me, it's just very emotional, the whole playing. And that's what I like about the album is you go from those heavy rockers, the Wolf You Feed and songs like that, to these really melodic and really emotional type songs. And it could draw me in on both sides. And to me, that's just a testament of your guitar playing. So that's one of the things I really like about the record.
That means so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Not everyone asks me about the instrumental songs, so I appreciate it.
Oh, to me, that was part of the whole journey of listening to the record. To me, that's just what makes the album what it is. So I'm glad we had a chance to talk about that. And it's one of the things to me I love about your guitar playing is a lot of people will talk about you as a shredder, right? But to me, you're far more than that. And I mean that in a very complimentary way. So whether it's playing with Alice and the classic rock style, even when you were playing with Demi Lovato and a song like Substance, which I happen to like, that's a great pop rock song. And you seemed very comfortable. And you seemed very comfortable in that. And then obviously your material, your solo stuff is much more modern and heavy. As a guitar player, do you have to approach each of those with different types of guitars? Or for you, is it just like come natural? Because it seems like it's natural playing all those different styles of rock.
I wouldn't necessarily say natural. I think it is a bit of a learned skill to approach each hired gig with the respect for the artist that you're playing with and the style of music that you've been hired to do, but also bring your personality into it just enough that, it's more than just anybody standing up there playing it. They hire you because they want you. So there's just finding that fine balance. If you listen to my record, that's what I sound like. That's just Nita Strauss as a guitar player, plain and simple. If you listen to what I do in the Alice Cooper show, you can still hear my personality coming through, but I'm not going to do the crazy sweeps and, tremolo picking and stuff that I do, in my solo stuff, because it just doesn't fit the Alice Cooper style. Same thing in the Demi gig, although I probably did honestly a little bit more of that in the Demi songs because it's a bit more modern and I had a little more range to just, stretch out and do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think a good hired gun on any instrument knows how to add their flair, yet still be respectful of the songs enough that fans that are paying to see an Alice Cooper show don't leave it going, well, I liked it, but, didn't really sound like Alice Cooper.
Right, of course. Now, did it surprise you? Because I thought it was great last year when you announced that you were going to take the Demi gig. There's been a history of the guitarists doing that, whether it's, Eddie Van Halen playing with Michael Jackson in the 80s, obviously, Betancourt's been playing with Rihanna on and off. So when you announced it, I thought it was great. But there were some fans, quite honestly, who were like, what is she thinking? She's nuts. What is she, why do you go with that kind of pop artist? Did that surprise you that some fans kind of reacted the way they did?
I expected it for sure. I don't think I could have been prepared for how much it was. But, I think, and, I've kind of said this a lot. I feel like anybody that had that extremely strong reaction maybe just didn't have as much of a sense of what was really happening as we did on the inside. Alice didn't have a problem. Demi's people didn't have a problem. Like, nobody who was actually a part of it had any issue with what was going on. We were all excited and happy, and there was no question that there was no bad blood or anything between us. Yep. So while I was surprised at how much blowback there was, I think it's just par for the course. Anytime you try something different, you branch out and try something new, you're going to ruffle some feathers. And the only way to not ruffle any feathers is stay in your lane and be safe and never try anything or experiment or take any risks. And that's just not what I do as an artist.
No, and to me, that's what being a rock artist is all about, is ruffling some feathers, and there's all different ways to do it. So
make some people mad.
Exactly, that's what it's all about. Absolutely. And anybody who paid attention to you, I think from even back a few years ago on Twitter, you said that you gained a lot of experience playing guitar for anybody who would have you, whether it was rock, pop, funk, metal. So this goes right into who you are as a person. So it's kind of like, I was very surprised and taken back, but I was so glad that you did it, because to me, even as a woman guitarist and a great role model for women, it gave you a chance to have other people in a slightly different genre, maybe younger kids, see a girl playing guitar and say, I want to do that one day. That is what I want from my career.
Yep. Nailed it. That's exactly my thought process.
That's great. So now let me ask you, and we would touch on this a little bit, as a stage performer, right? To me, there's some guitarists that just ooze cool, whether it's Joe Perry, right? Whether it's Eddie Van Halen. And I would say there's something about you and your incredible stage presence that just oozes cool as well, right? And it's that fine line between being a performer, but not being over the top where people like it's taken away from, whether it's Alice, whether it's Demi, whoever. Is that an important part of who you are as a performer for you?
Definitely. I think it's really important to always remember who the principal of the show is. Like the Alice Cooper show, for example, that show is not choreographed. No one ever tells us you must stand here at any certain time. But, we don't have any illusions that the name on the marquee is Alice Cooper. So, when it's our turn to solo, we will, we'll take the spotlight and we'll shine, but we always back off and give the man center stage when he's doing his thing. So I think, again, it just kind of goes to the good hired gun ethic where, you're hired for a reason. They want you, they hire me because they want me to do what I do, but I would never want to overstep to the point where, I would stand in front of someone like Alice or Demi when it's their time to be in the spotlight.
And I'm going to say this, you didn't. To me, you're being very respectful, calling yourself a hired gun. To me, I heard you're writing with Alice for the new album. You're a little bit more than that, in I think a lot of fans' eyes. But I understand why you would say that.
Well, the original Alice Cooper band was, I think, the last ones to actually not be hired guns.
Right.
The rest of us, well, and I will say this forever and always, like, we are a family on that tour. We spend more time. I've been with them almost a decade now, and we've spent more time with each other than we have with our own families over the last decade. We've seen each other through weddings and breakups and birthdays and anniversaries and deaths in the family, the highs and lows that come with life. We were riding on a tour bus with each other, waking up and having our morning coffee together and talking about our day, and getting off stage and changing into our pajamas and talking about the show, So we truly are, as close to a family as anybody that's not related by blood can be. And I think that anybody that's listening to this that's toured, will understand that. So that's just the kind of thing, you can't replace that. You can't fake that. You can't, when I stepped back last fall and the great Kane Roberts came in, and I saw some people giving him a hard time too, you could have put Steve Vai in that spot. You could have put the greatest guitar player in the world, and they wouldn't have had that connection that we do. Like, we almost share a brain sometimes, so I got to see the show with Kane. I personally thought he knocked it out of the park, but I could also be the president of the Kane Roberts fan club because I just love the guy and I love playing. So can't say enough good things about the close bond that we all have.
That's awesome. Now, your shows that you're going to be doing, will you be showcasing songs from both of your solo albums?
I will, yeah. I think what we're going to do is probably split the setup pretty much the same way as the record is split up. So we'll do a fair bit of instrumentals and then also a fair bit of vocal songs as well.
That's awesome. And I know you briefly mentioned it before. It sounds like you're going to be doing meet and greets again with the fans on this tour.
Yes, we are going to do meet and greets. It is one of my absolute favorite parts of the day on the solo tour, because in my VIP, we actually get it. We start it early so we can do a 30, 40-minute Q&A before we actually do the meet and greet part of the VIP experience. And that's really cool because when you're meeting people one by one, a lot of times people don't want to ask a question, or it just feels weird to come up and ask for an autograph and be like, by the way, what went through your mind when you were writing Dead Inside, or, whatever it is. So having a very cool, intimate, small group Q&A gives people that experience to ask the questions that they want to ask and hear answers to other questions they might want to know about. And that's the stuff you can't really do. I do like to go out to merch after the show too, but it's loud and it's busy and you get no time. You're kind of rushing people through and taking selfies. So this just gives me more of a chance to connect with people.
That is absolutely awesome. So where can people find out about the meet and greets? Is it on your website?
It is nitastraussvip.com. And you can also find that and tickets to all the shows on my website, which is nitastrauss.com.
Awesome. Now, I know obviously the record's coming out soon. Is it going to be vinyl, and what are the different formats it's going to be available on?
We are doing it in all the things. We've got multiple vinyl variants. We've got CDs and, of course, digital downloads as well.
And I always encourage everybody who watches my show, go buy the physical product, because streaming is great if you're going running, if you're out in a car, whatever, you can listen to it. But the physical product is where it's at. And to me, there's nothing like holding a vinyl in your hand, the artwork and all of that. And so I would strongly encourage everybody to go out and purchase the vinyl.
Thank you for that. And the vinyl, we're super, super proud of. It's a beautiful gatefold. It's a double vinyl. The variants are all really beautiful, really cool splatter variants. And I'm so thrilled with how it came out. It's one of the coolest things you can really look at as an artist, to see this is my album. It's kind of cooler than a CD or listening to it on Spotify or whatever. This is the original. This is the way that, Van Halen saw their music for the first time, and Led Zeppelin, they got to hold their vinyl in their hands. So it's cool for us to get to do it too.
100% agree. And I'll just say this, after they buy the vinyl, don't be afraid to also stream it, because on the streaming side of the shop, you're going to have extra instrumental tracks that are not available on the vinyl. Was that something that was important to you to include?
That is actually something that was my label's suggestion, but I was really, really happy that they did suggest it, because the music of the vocal songs is quite cool. And I don't think that you get to hear all of that, all the sort of subtleties and nuances that, that are in there when you have the vocal on it. So I think it's kind of cool that we're releasing these sort of karaoke versions.
Absolutely. So you're going to be on tour with Alice. You're going to be on tour with yourself for your own shows. You have a very busy 2023 coming up. Is there anything else? So your fans are definitely going to have opportunities to see you anywhere and everywhere they want. But is there anything else that you want your fans to know about the record?
Just how excited I am that you guys finally get to hear it. I'm so proud of it. And it's a cliche thing to say, but I hope you guys love it as much as I do.
Absolutely. And I'll just add this one last thing before we wrap up. I know I saw somebody commented on Twitter, why are you playing this small town and this? And you responded, small towns are important. I love that you're taking your tour out to the people, not just the New York, which I happen to live in New York, but LA. You're taking to the smaller towns as well. And that's why I think it's a great thing that you do that.
Thank you. Well, we are playing New York, but it was funny because the particular show the guy was complaining about was Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And he said, why aren't you coming to Philly? And why are you going to Mechanicsburg instead? Mechanicsburg is my best-selling VIP of the entire tour. There are only 4 tickets left of 50.
Wow.
So Mechanicsburg is coming to play. There's
There
a
you
lot
go.
more VIP in Mechanicsburg than there are in New York City. So there you go.
That's awesome to hear. So, Nita, I'll just say I wish you much luck with the album, with the tour. It's coming out July 7th, The Call It a Void. I really want to thank you for your time today. I think the fans are going to really love hearing the record, and we look forward to seeing you on the road this summer.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Nita for joining me, talking all about her forthcoming album, The Call It a Void. I think you guys are going to really love it. Nita's really taking it to the next level. Thanks so much for joining me, Nita. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.